Welcome to the Golden Hour podcast experience with your hosts, David Altizer and Connor McCaskill. Let's go, you mother truckers.
Yeah.
All right. I can't believe you got Joe Rogan on the show. That's nuts.
Yeah, it was, it was a real expensive rate that he gave us, but thanks to the people that are sponsoring us, we were able to afford it.
Right. Yes. Our sponsors, Pure LaCroix. Thank you, Pure LaCroix for.
Yeah.
No, they didn't sponsor.
And Apple.
Yeah.
No, we don't have any sponsors, which leads us to say, if you're a potential sponsor and you would like to sponsor a podcast like this, the door is open. ghp.fm/contact.
If you would like to give us money, please do that.
But yeah, man, AI has gotten to a point now where I'm a little scared.
Yeah. So Dave showed up this morning and he's like, check this out. And he punched in some random things, uploaded a clip, and suddenly there's a robot that was talking just like me, which was a little bizarre. And then, of course, we were messing around with it. We got Joe Rogan to say some things. So
let's see. This is AI Connor. Okay, so let's see what this sounds like. I loaded in Connor's voice, and all I have to do is just type something in, and it can do it. This is AI
Connor. Well, that doesn't sound like me.
It sounds a little different, but you can tune it to sound however. But yeah, I can do Joe Rogan, which is what we did, obviously, earlier.
This is AI Joe Rogan.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, that sounded pretty all right.
So that's how we were able to do our little intro here.
Welcome to the Golden Hour podcast experience with your hosts, David Altizer and Connor McCaskill. Let's go, you mother truckers.
It's so good.
So I wanted to share this with you guys right at the front end because I think this is important for us to kind of document where we are in this process. You know, we may look back in a couple of years and be like, man, they were so naive and unaware of where this was going. I've seen AI voice models in the past, but this is getting really good. It's really easy and it's really cheap.
It's starting to sound less. I mean, it still doesn't quite sound right, like if you really listen to it, but it's starting to sound less and less like a machine talking.
Yeah.
It's able to get a little more inflection in the voice. If you could figure out spacing between words, because people don't just say words like this in a row.
Yeah.
There's a little more inflection or spacing between words. But once that's figured out, it's going to get crazy. You're going to be able to make anyone say anything, which is a weird place to be in.
I know, exactly. And in this time where we're living in the situations where people are, getting in trouble for certain things that they said in the past or whatever, like it's going to get hard to differentiate whether or not that person actually said it. Like you said, right now, there are little tells that if you listen close enough, it sounds like a robot. But again, listen to Joe Rogan.
This is AI Joe Rogan.
It sounds a little stale and a little robotic, but man, it's within a split second, you wouldn't really think anything of it.
Yeah, and I think we're actually listening for those issues because we know. You typed it in, we're hearing it, right?
Exactly.
But if someone had just like had Joe Rogan say something nefarious and they heard it in passing or whatever, they're much more likely to believe it. I mean, this could be. It's a really cool technology because there's a lot of like funny kind of things. Like we had Joe Rogan start off this podcast. That's pretty funny. But there's just a lot of ways that this can be taken the wrong way. So we just kind of wanted to bring this up and make you guys aware of it. This is something that's happening. You probably already know about it. This isn't probably new, but just in case. We also did find this.
This is a great little video that we found of somebody that it's a ChatGPT generated script, which then they inputted that script into the system that we were using from 11 Labs, which, by the way, if you want to mess around with this, go to 11labs.io and you can kind of mess around with this yourself. You can import your own voices. I was even thinking from a creative standpoint, say we're editing a video and I flubbed a line here or there. If I just input my own voice model into the system, I could type in the mistakes that I made and you could just add that in to like mid-sentence, and then I don't have to record anything, and it sounds the same as whatever lav mic I was using at the time because I input that source from that microphone, and you could basically recreate, using AI mistakes that you made and fix audio mistakes.
That's true. There's also entire channels where they don't ever show their face. It's only ever voiceover, and then they show random B-roll clips or whatever. So like maybe like a news channel. So there's a world where they record themselves talking, they add it to the program, and then later down the line, all they have to do is write out their blog. Let's say it's a blog or a news source. They type it out, punch it in there, it spits out the audio, they upload that, put some B-roll on it, and they're done.
Well, that's essentially what this is here. Check this out. This is Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson talking about Mario.
So Jordan, what's the deal with Super Mario? I mean, the premise is essentially a plumber saving the princess over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic story, but let's think about it. Why is Mario always chasing after her, It's not like he's got any real obligation to do it.
Exactly, dude. I mean, what's the deal with that? Why does he feel the need to chase after her all the time?
Well, I think it's a classic hero's journey, Mario's the hero and Peach is the damsel in distress. But, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I've come to the conclusion that maybe Mario shouldn't be chasing after her. I mean, as a man, I think it's important to be mindful of our actions and how they impact others, especially when it comes to women.
So like the thing that makes this so believable isn't just the audio AI clarity, sounding like Jordan Peterson, sounding like Joe Rogan. It's also that ChatGPT, which generated the script, understands the cadence and understands the vocabulary that each character, in this case, uses.
Right.
The way that Jordan Peterson talks, is like, it comes to my understanding that, that's how he talks.
It's his vocabulary. It's taking what he would say and then applying it. And then also it's cool is like, it's getting their, Jordan's accent right
he's
as well.
Canadian. So he says Mario like Mario.
Mario, yeah.
And it picked that out somehow. And I'm sure whatever model they fed the voice AI, he probably didn't say the word Mario, at any point.
Yeah.
But it was able to determine, the way he pronounced his A's, being a Canadian. It was like, well, he would say Mario.
Or maybe whoever is the one who did this, they typed it out in a way that Mario would be pronounced Mario.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
There's ways to. We were messing with it earlier. We wanted Joe to have a little more like spacing between certain words. So we were trying like dots or commas or extra spaces or putting starting it on the next line. So there's ways to play with it and to make it sound more realistic.
I'm digging a hole. Any of you guys get any diamonds yet?
I'm strip mining at the correct Y level. Nothing yet.
So this is.
I found them.
So
don't mind them, Joker. What are your coordinates?
What do you mean, don't mind them? Do you have any idea what game we're playing?
So this is Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, Joker, and Joe Rogan playing Minecraft.
Yeah.
So diamonds are rare, right? So you really want to use fortune, so you get...
Sure, but we don't even have a pick to mine obsidian for an enchanting table. Is your brain working?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, this is going to create... If you haven't already seen different people using AI to create content like this, we're going to continue to see more and more of it. And if it's written well and if the animation is good, you could honestly build your own channels based around, taking celebrities' voices and coming up with silly concepts.
I wonder what the legal backlash for that's going to be.
I know.
So it's like, let's say you did that. You built a whole channel around Joe Rogan playing video games, right? And you wrote out scripts and you had the AI do his voice. Well, it is his voice.
Yeah.
And he is his own brand. I mean, he literally has a podcast. So audio is his business.
Yep. I'm sure that these companies are trying to be as smart as they can about the copyright and whatnot. If you're using it for a paid thing, there was actually a big debacle recently with, an AI voice generated thing promoting a product. And so they used Joe Rogan's voice to promote a testosterone booster that you can buy on Amazon. And then that company made a fake ad using fake Joe Rogan, endorsing their product.
Yeah.
And then they paid for TikTok to promote that product with a fake Joe Rogan endorsement. So they probably sold a bunch of units on Amazon before it got flagged.
Right.
Because Joe Rogan has millions and millions of listeners. And one of the things that I heard Colin and Samir talking about in their podcast is, as content creators, you're kind of selling your credibility to the brands that you work with. And your voice is tied to that credibility. So this is really dangerous, I think, in the first kind of threat to content creators, I think, that we've seen, that you could basically fake any creator's voice and endorse a product without their consent.
Yeah.
There were some issues where Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, was talking about products just in his reviews. Say he does a review of a phone, well, those phone companies would just clip out a section of his review and then make that an ad. But that wasn't, Marquez like flagged it and spoke against it, because he was like, you can't use my endorsement without my consent. I'm doing a review on YouTube and you're creating a paid ad out of it. That's a different type of copyright. So anyways, this is all the beginning stages of, I think, what's going to be happening this year, 2023. We're going to see more and more advancements in this AI stuff.
They are working. I mean, we obviously have deep fakes. That's the other thing that we have.
Yeah.
Now we have AI voice, but then also, I mean, they're working on AI video, just straight up AI generated video.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's coming. So yeah, there's just a lot of potential for fun, good things with this, but I feel like there's more downsides to this technology. Sometimes it's like, does technology really need to advance? Like, can we just, we did pretty good, guys. We did well. Everything seems to be mostly fine. Let's just stop.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
So that was not AI generated. That was from Talladega Nights.
Oh, okay.
No, you're right. It's kind of scary and, but also fun and interesting. I think there's power to it. And just like anything, with great power comes great responsibility.
It is funny though, because we're in the tech space. A lot of our friends are in the tech space, and the more people I talk to when it comes to this kind of stuff, the more people kind of make it as an offhand comment, but it's almost like secretly inside maybe what we're all thinking. It's like, maybe we should just all move to Montana, and just get away.
Yeah, exactly.
With great power comes great responsibility. With AI.
AI. That was supposed to be AI.
Yeah, I have to do a dot there.
Yeah, A.I.
Well, yeah, so we'll keep you guys in the loop with AI stuff. I am definitely interested in it. Adobe apparently has something that's in beta that uses this type of technology to do what I was saying earlier, where it can kind of fix your audio. So I need to look into that, because I think there's some real powerful tools that we could use as creators with this stuff, especially if it gets built into our NLEs like Premiere or Final Cut or Resolve.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to, smooth out your cuts if you're doing a bunch of jump cuts with audio. If you use this type of technology to scan the audio, get a model of that person's voice, and then say, do your edit, and then say, smooth it out. You just push a button, and it'll add the breaths. It'll add the white noise or the room tone, basically, automatically if you're doing cuts. It can maybe even rephrase certain words that maybe sound a little odd. So the tools can be really useful, but, as Joe Rogan says,
with great power comes great responsibility. With A.
So Sony released a new lens today, another lens.
Yeah, let's move on from AI. They released, what is this, their 6th 50 millimeter lens that they have out there on the market right now?
Yeah, the 50 millimeter f1.4 G Master. So this is another G Master. The previous G Master, I think it's still available, is the 51.2 G Master.
Okay.
This is added to the list of 50 millimeters from Sony, including the 51.2, the 51.8, which is a non-G Master, the 50 f2.5 G lens, which is the really small one, the 50 millimeter f2.8, and then of course the Sony Zeiss 50 millimeter f1.4, which has been around for a long time.
Right.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6.
Oh, I got it right. 6.
50 millimeter lenses, not from third parties. These are all first party Sony lenses. And I think, I don't really have much to say about this lens. I mean, they've updated the optics. It's probably better for video hybrid stuff. It's got the clickless aperture where you can turn on click and declick. And it's got an aperture ring, which is great.
Slightly more affordable than the 1.2.
Yeah, the 1.2 G Master is $2,000. This f1.4 is $1,299. It's also a little bit smaller. To me, I think the f1.4 is the one that, if I were given the option between the two, I would actually probably choose that. Not only for the money, but for the size and that wonderful little clickless aperture, although I believe the F1.2 also has something kind of similar to that, but it's got better flare resistance on it, just all the new things, right?
Right.
But in addition to that, we also have all the other third-party lenses that Sony makes, or that Sigma and Tamron have available, Rokinon. Come on, Canon.
All this is basically to say Canon is falling behind again. I mean, they've been falling behind for a long time. 650 millimeters that Sony has, and Canon has one, and Canon has 0 third-party support. So it's just
there's two. There's a cheap RF.
Is it the 1.8?
Yes, there's a 1.8 that's kind of like your nifty 50. That's $179, and then there's the main RFL, 1.4, and that's $2,000. So they have no other options other than the super cheap and bad, in terms of professional quality, f1.8 at $200, and then all the way up to the $2,000 one. So for me, I would want something in the middle. I'd want like $1,000 just everyday carry, like pro lens, but I don't need all the way to the crazy 1.2.
You know what's funny is you would think, like you got the super cheap end, you got the super high end. You would think that most people who use Canon RF mount are somewhere in the middle, right? The majority of their customers are probably not ultra beginners and also probably not ultra professional. So why aren't they focusing on like a middle ground $1,000, $800 lens?
Yeah, focusing. No pun intended.
Yeah.
I need to turn that down a little bit.
That was really loud.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, you're right. There on the EF mount, there was actually an f1.4 that was kind of like a $400, $500 option, and that's what I remember. I had that. My friend Jeffrey had one of those. That was the one to get because the f1.2 EF was definitely the best one you could get. But for video shooters, it wasn't necessary. It was a little bit heavier. The focusing was slower. So yeah, I would love to see Canon do more. And while we're on topic of other companies other than Sony, like same for Panasonic. They've got Sigma and Leica and Panasonic, but I would love to see some more Panasonic lenses, not just Sigma, but at least there's 3 companies making lenses for the same body. Nikon has a couple more lenses than Canon as well. It's just strange that Canon keeps just slowly doing things, but
I mean, do you think it works? Like, do you think that their model seems to be, give them so few options that they buy the expensive one? Maybe that model does work. Maybe they have seen an uptick in sales with their more expensive lenses, because if you don't want the cheapo piece of garbage $170 lens, your next option is the $2,300
or use old EF lenses
or adapt old EF.
Adapt. Yeah. I mean, obviously Canon is still number 1 in the industry. Yeah. So they're still on top somehow.
I was looking at a article, and I don't know how accurate it is, so take it with a grain of salt. But they were claiming that the R6 Mark II is so far the most sold camera in 2023.
Wow.
And then next up was the Sony A7 IV.
Okay. So that kind of middle of the ground price point, that $2,400 kind of
seems to be the sweet spot, which again brings up the fact that it seems like most customers are probably in the middle area, not super high end, not super low end. So you would think they'd want to cater to those people, and they just haven't.
Moving on to the Canon box style cinema. Speaking of Canon,
basically Canon they have patents on a box camera. Honestly, looking at these patents, assuming they are the actual ones, it looks a lot like the Komodo, the Red Komodo, which I think, didn't Canon and Red work together a bit on that camera? I mean, it does use the RF mount. There was talks about it getting some Canon autofocus. I don't know that did it ever get it?
Yeah, I mean, these are all rumors because neither Canon nor Red
have openly
confirmed that.
It's all rumors.
But the phase detect autofocus that the Komodo seems to have seems very similar in performance to a Canon type sensor. The resolution of the Komodo is similar to an R6 original, I believe. So there's some rumors that Canon worked with, and then it's using Canon batteries. It's using an RF mount.
Mm-hmm.
There's just rumors that Canon and Red are kind of in this partnership kind of thing.
Just a secret one. I heard a rumor. Now this is definitely a rumor that maybe Canon would purchase Red.
That'd be cool.
Which would be pretty crazy. I don't know. Would that be cool? Would that not be cool? Would you want Canon philosophy on a Red camera?
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I would imagine they would keep the Red brand. The Red branding is pretty big. It's probably more impactful than Canon's own cinema lineup. So I wonder if they bought it, if they would just start turning everything into Red cameras, like the Red C70, the Red C500. You know?
Right. Oh, and this camera is rumored to be named, I think, the C50.
Yeah, this is the C50. So the rumor is that we're going to see a box camera from Canon soon that looks very similar to a Komodo.
Yeah.
It's using two of the Canon C70 type batteries on the back. It's got SDI, which is something that people wish the C70 had.
Yeah.
It'll have the same C70 and C300 Mark III sensor, which is a wonderful sensor. I love it. The DGO sensor, dual gain output, great dynamic range, great in low light.
Really does look like the Red though. I mean, like, I don't know.
Got a little screen on top.
Yeah, it's got like the same buttons on the side, just a couple buttons, and then the screen on the top as well.
But it would be cool if this had built-in NDs, which the Komodo does not have. I would assume that it will, but maybe it won't.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of space for it.
I know, but yeah, I mean, if this little box camera, which is literally the size of a Komodo, maybe even smaller, if this has built-in NDs, this will be really cool because it's got a small footprint, perfect for gimbals. I would even consider dumping my C70 for this if it had the same image quality, same autofocus, etc.
Could be a really good studio camera.
Yeah.
The question is because it is now then, like it is a lot like the Komodo. How are they going to differentiate it from the Komodo? Because it is the same batteries, same mount.
Yeah.
It's a different sensor, so I guess you could say that, but it would have to do something that the Komodo doesn't do, because it's not like the Komodo's that expensive, especially for Red. So maybe that's what they do with this. Maybe it's
more
much
expensive.
cheaper.
Yeah.
Like maybe the Canon one, the C50 will be like $4,000 instead of, what's the Komodo, $6,000?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. The C70 is how much does that one cost? I think it's $4,500 now, maybe $5,000.
What was it new? Was it 55 new?
Yeah, I believe so. So this camera will certainly be more than the C70, I would assume.
You think so?
Yeah,
because it won't have a flip screen. It has less.
That's
it looks
true.
like less volume.
It has less
overall.
stuff.
Yeah, it's like
maybe it's cheaper.
I would think it'd be
Maybe
cheaper.
Maybe 49 would be cool on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm certainly excited about it. And the rumors are coming out just in time now for a potential release, maybe around NAB, which is kind of in like late April. And if it's not NAB, then it would be Cinegear, which is right after in May, which is held in Hollywood. Although I don't know if they're doing that anymore. I know they kind of canceled it the last couple of years because of COVID, but maybe that'll come back this year.
Maybe bring it back. They should bring it back. That'd be nice.
But the thing that, and just as a C70 user, I need to just, again, say the thing that's most annoying to me is the Super 35 sensor. It's not that I don't like Super 35 and that, it's not, it's a great, it's very compatible with PL mount lenses and stuff, but it's a full frame mount, the RF mount with a Super 35 sensor, and Canon does not have any high quality APS-C lenses for RF yet. They've now got 3 RFS cameras with the R50, the R10, and the R7, and there's no pro level lenses.
Yeah.
Not to mention the C70. So this will now be another high end cropped sensor camera from Canon with no like pro crop lenses. Obviously you can use all the full frame lenses, but they're bigger, they're heavier, they're more expensive, and you're not using the full potential of that lens. So therefore I have to use the little turbo booster thing, or the speed booster, and it makes the lens now roughly full frame and gives me extra light, but I get some flare with it. It softens the image a hair, and I'm using older EF lenses, which are bigger, heavier, and just older.
Well, I don't know. Are they bigger?
Yeah, I mean, usually.
I guess they are. The RF lenses are pretty chunky.
Yeah, that's true. But it's certainly heavier.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just, it's kind of annoying that Canon doesn't have any pro level crop lenses. I would love to see just like a standard, I guess like a 15 to 55, even f2.8, I would take that.
Yeah.
Or like a modern version of the Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8. That lens is money. So like something like that on a RFS mount would be perfect.
Well, this makes me think that why hasn't Blackmagic done a box camera yet? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I feel like we haven't seen anything from them in a minute. Maybe that'll change.
Resolve. They keep updating Resolve.
Yeah, obviously Resolve has been kicking butt lately, and that's been great. I've been dabbling in it actually, and I do enjoy it when I use it. But yeah, the camera, the side of things, what was the last camera they released?
They've done kind of iterations on each camera, but they haven't really done like a whole new body redesign. They haven't added a new sensor. I guess the 6K Pro would be kind of their last big announcement, which it was the same 6K sensor with built-in NDs and that little flip out screen. Mm-hmm. So it's just like little iterations on it, but nothing big or different.
Yeah. So it would be nice to see. Like,
they're due for something.
Yeah, they're due for something. And, a lot of people say they love the sensor on the Blackmagic, they love the image, they hate using it, right?
Yeah.
So if they would release a camera like this Canon C50 or the Komodo, I think it could be extremely popular, especially since Blackmagic is known to price things so competitively.
Yeah. A little gear guy. Instagram is taking a note from Twitter's playbook, specifically Elon Musk influencing Mark Zuckerberg, because obviously Meta, aka Facebook, owns Instagram, and Mark Zuckerberg is saying that they will now have verification on Instagram for $12 a month.
Wow. So basically, the old Zuckergini, he saw an opportunity to make a few extra billion a year, and he's going to take all that and funnel it into his metaverse creepy world that he's trying to create.
Yeah. I think I wanted to talk about this today because I think this is a bigger conversation around the perception of verification, and now that Twitter is having paid verification, which I will raise my hand and admit I am paying for. I pay $11 a month for Twitter verification.
I thought it was $8.
It went up.
Always does.
Which is why
inflation.
Which is why Mark Zuckerberg is charging $12 a month. By the way, I'll just read this article here from Petapixel. Zuckerberg's broadcast channel this morning, starting a new program called Meta Verified, will allow users to verify their account with a government-issued ID and get a blue badge in exchange for $12 a month. For $12 a month if purchased on the web, or $15 if bought through iOS, which is also the same for Twitter. It's $11 if you do it through the web, and I believe $15 through iOS. And both, I guess now, Instagram and Twitter are doing what a lot of companies do, which is they just have to charge more on iOS because Apple takes that 30%.
They have to charge more because think about the amount of overhead they have to put a blue symbol next to your name. I mean, that's a big undertaking. I mean, they're going to have thousands of employees that they got to hire to keep painting in those blue check marks.
Yeah. I think these companies just want to do anything they can to kind of scoot around Apple's policy.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic of discussion. Specifically like even Netflix, Amazon, with Kindle and with Audible, like they don't even let you buy the subscription in the app. Like say you want to get Netflix, you download Netflix on your iPad, your friends tell you about Netflix. It's the first time you've ever used it. You open it up and there's no explanation on how to get it or where to pay for it, because they can't even say, you don't have Netflix, sign up here. Like you just have to know that you go on the web, then sign up, and then you pay there, and then you log in on the app.
Got it.
It's a terrible system because Apple won't even let them explain what's happening, which it's just all very odd.
It is odd.
Because Apple, I think they charge 30% of sale on apps, but you can just go to Safari on an iPad or on an iPhone and sign up and do it through there, and you scoot past that 30% charge. But that means if you're paying $10 a month for a streaming service, $3 of that $10 is going to Apple, which at scale is a significant amount of money.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
so that's why we're seeing that here. $12 a month if purchased on the web, or $15 if bought through iOS.
You know, for that amount of money, you could get YouTube Premium
yeah.
instead of a blue check mark. I mean, I guess this is useful for a particular type of person.
Extra impersonation protection.
Yeah.
This new feature is about increasing authenticity and security. Zuckerberg says we'll be rolling out in Australia, New Zealand this week, with more countries soon.
Okay.
Oh, so it's not even in the US yet. I guess they're just starting on a smaller market. But the thing that is different here...
I guess we get angrier faster here in the US, so he wants to start with Australians.
yeah. The thing that's different here is that all you're getting is a verification. Unless I'm reading this wrong, this is simply just a blue check mark that then verifies that you are, a real person, a real human.
Yeah.
Because they have to check your license, although I'm sure people are still going to scam it. Whereas with Twitter Blue, I do get the ability to undo my tweet. You can post longer videos.
So you get a few extra perks.
There's some great articles that you get access to. So there's some perks to it that I actually do love. And as a Twitter nerd, I'm a fan of it. And I do like the idea of supporting the app and just continuing to invest, if you will, into the company, because I do like it.
No, I don't use Twitter. But is Twitter doing anything to work with creators or influencers, if you want to use that word, to monetize and stuff like that? Like, is there a way to make money on Twitter directly yet, or no?
Yeah, Elon Musk about 2 weeks ago posted a tweet that said, starting now, we will be splitting revenue. I think it's 60-40. Okay. It's the same split that YouTube's doing, I think. Although I think it's actually the other way. I think YouTube is 40-60. They take 40 and give you 60.
Oh, so Twitter's taking the majority.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Interesting.
I believe that was it. Okay. I could verify real quick. Yes, it's starting today. Twitter will share ad revenue with creators for ads that appear in their reply threads. So say you have a tweet or a specific thread that gets some real attention.
Yeah.
Millions of views or something. If there's an ad attached to that, they will share revenue.
Okay. So does he make it revenue off his tweets too? Or?
The company will pay out 55% of revenue earned.
Okay.
So that's 55, actually 45. So the creator gets the majority.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Just barely.
Yeah.
No, but that is good.
Yeah. So Elon is still like working the kinks out. Things are getting better, I think.
It does seem to be stabilizing. I mean, it was chaos for a while. I think anyone, even if you supported it, can agree, but it does seem to be stabilizing, which is a great thing. I think Twitter needs to stabilize. It's a unique part of social media that should stick around, even though I don't personally use it.
One thing that people were kind of up in arms about last week was if you're not a Twitter Blue subscriber, if you have two-factor how do I say it?
Authentication. Whoa.
Authentication.
That was a hard word.
Yeah, that was hard.
Sorry, listeners. You had to stumble through that.
If you have that turned on through SMS, that they're cutting it off. So if you aren't, but if you use an app like Authy or Google Authenticator or any of those verification apps that are actually way more secure, that's still available. And the reason he did that is because they're literally spending millions and millions of dollars on these services that send out text messages. So Elon is basically trying to figure out how to make a profit. And so anything that is like a waste of money, he's just
trimming the fat.
He's just trimming the fat. And people were getting angry because it was like, they're still offering SMS verification to Blue subscribers. Right. So it's like, but it's also a less secure method anyways compared to traditional, like actual authenticator apps. So everybody should be using an authenticator app anyways, that like it gives you that 6-digit code that changes every 15 seconds or whatever. Have you ever used one of those?
No.
Connor.
I know. I was waiting for you to ask me.
So the text message is not as secure because people can hack into that and say that they're you or put in their phone number, and then all that happens is you get a text And so if they're using their phone number, they could just verify that they are you, even though they're using their number. So it's a lot easier to fake it. But the language was like, hey, we're cutting this out for all the free users, all the people who aren't probably using it. All the people who subscribe to Twitter Blue are probably using authenticator apps because they're nerds who are paying for Twitter Blue, which means they're nerds that probably use authenticator apps. Those are the ones who get access to SMS. But the people who probably aren't paying for Twitter Blue, who are probably more kind of like normal people, those are the ones using SMS, and that's getting cut off for them. But again, he's saving millions of dollars by doing that, and he's just trimming the fat. So, I think people shouldn't be using SMS anyways. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but people were getting upset about it.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see this whole Twitter thing with Elon, because we've never seen like a CEO be so kind of available, if you will, to the mass of the platform. Like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't post on Facebook like what's happening at Facebook. Usually. It's only when there's like a big announcement.
Right.
And they have like awkward, weird
Well, Elon Musk will just post memes. I mean, he's a memer. And
absolutely.
It's pretty funny. I mean, he has some funny things to say for sure.
He's always got...
Making a meme. There we go. Making a meme, small brain. Stealing a meme, slightly bigger brain. Making a meme about stealing a meme, bigger brain. Stealing a meme about stealing a meme, omega brain. Yeah, see? That's quality.
And then one of the top responses to that, man spends $44 billion to buy Twitter to share memes. Even bigger brain.
Even bigger brain.
Yeah. So that's Twitter. That's Instagram verification. Let us know what you guys think about Instagram verification.
Yeah.
I think they need to add some more features to it to make it a little bit more compelling. If it's just $12 a month to get a blue check mark, I don't care about that.
Yeah. I don't think
give me some features.
It's not worth it. Yeah. I mean, like, for one, all these people were getting it for free. I mean, I did hear a lot of people paid for it to get it behind the scenes, but like in reality, it was a free thing just to get a blue check mark. So now to have to pay for it and you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
In addition, like Twitter Blue, you do get some extra things. I just don't see. I mean, there will be people who pay for it, obviously, but like, just who cares? Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a bunch of kids are gonna want that blue check mark for, whatever clout
but
in school.
The reason it was clout was because the people who had it were famous.
Yeah, but now it's just people who have $12 extra a month. So basically, a person who didn't go to Starbucks twice can now have a blue check mark.
Yeah, I mean. I don't know. I think as a content creator, it makes sense to have it because it verifies that you are who you say you are. So there is always even somebody like myself. Like there is a fan account, a Dave Mays fan account, which is hilarious.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. That was me. I made that.
Yeah, that was you. Was that you?
No.
But then there's also like another person with a similar name. So it's just like a normal random person. If somebody's searching for my name who wants to find me, David Altizer, Dave Mays, the YouTuber, chances are a standard person who's just posting stuff of their family who happens to have a similar name, they're probably not going to pay $12 a month.
Right.
So that lets my account kind of get to the rank to the top. So I guess you could say as a professional content creator, it kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I see your point. I think it's just a hard sell because it is $12 for a blue check. A blue check. I guess it's one of those weird things where it's like if they make it too cheap, then everyone will just do it, and if they make it, I don't know,
too expensive,
no one will do it. But $12 is starting to feel on the too expensive side.
That's significant money. But I mean, if you're putting it into your budget as a professional, it's just part of doing business.
Yeah. I mean, there is another Connor McCaskill on Instagram. Oh. In fact, I have the _McCaskill name. So
bummer.
Shame.
Biggie bum. Maybe you could send him a message and say, hey, I'll send you $12 for a year.
$12. Yeah. Yeah. See how that works.
My car broke down, but actually didn't.
Oh yeah,
that happened this week.
That's great.
Great story. Yeah, I'll make it brief, but basically I thought my alternator went out and it started smoking, and I got a call from my mechanic today and he said, hey, there's nothing wrong with your alternator. It's just a tube that's right above your alternator that's dripping oil onto the engine, which is causing smoke. And it made you think, and the AutoZone people that looked at it, that there's something wrong with it. So thank goodness I'm saving about $600.
Yeah.
But in the process
that's a lot of Instagram verification you can buy.
Yeah, I am. My wife and I are down to one car, as you know, Connor, because you drove me around a lot when you lived with us. I've just been just saving my money, and there's always something else to pay for in my family when you have a single income household with a wife and 2 kids. So we've just been saving our money on either repairing the car, and then the second car that we have, which is a Prius. Now they're telling me it's going to cost $4,000 to $5,000 to fix the Prius. And now I'm like, that's way too much money. It's probably better to just put that towards a new car.
Yeah.
So because of that, we only have one car. So I had to go rent a car while our minivan is in the shop. And for the same price as a cheap, small little Chevy, something or other, they're like, or you could just get the Nissan Leaf, the electric car. It's a little bit bigger, and they're probably not renting them because nobody wants the electric car. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll take it, because I used to own a Nissan Leaf.
I remember the little red Nissan Leaf.
I always called it the poor man's Tesla.
Yeah.
Because it was. I paid $6,000 cash for it, I believe, or what? It might have been $9,000. I think I sold it for $6,000. But yeah, I think we took out a $3,000 or $4,000 loan on it, and then I just paid cash for the rest of it. Then we ended up paying it off in a quick amount of time. And that car was great because it was my first experience using an electric car. And this was several years ago. This was 6 years ago.
Well, let's see.
6 years ago.
It would have been 2017 that I remember it.
Yeah. We sold it before we moved to California.
So yeah, 2018 is when we moved. So yeah.
Yeah. So 2017 is when I got it. And it was the first gen Nissan Leaf, so it only had 87-mile range when I got it, which was plenty for just kind of standard commuting back and forth. The average American commutes about 30 miles a day on average. That's going to the grocery store. That's maybe going to your job that's hopefully not too far away. At the time, I was working at Dave Ramsey, so I would drive it about 30 minutes from Nashville to Brentwood. And I would top off there. I would just plug it there was an outlet in the back, and they just let me plug in, which was great.
That's great.
I didn't ask Dave Ramsey himself, but he probably wouldn't let me. But
Mr. Ramsey, please.
But I loved it, and it was really fun to get the experience with that. Just plug it into the wall, just a standard AC wall outlet, and that thing would charge up overnight, just like a phone. I'd come home, plug it in, go to sleep, wake up, it's full. It was about the same voltage of a toaster oven, so it was very low amount of energy that was being used to charge it. Take about 8 hours to go from 0 to full. But as I owned it, I guess I owned it for about 2 years. By the end of my time with it, it was only doing about 37 miles on a battery. The battery life of it, the health of the battery just deteriorated like crazy. Which at that point, basically, anytime I would drive somewhere, I could basically get to where I wanted to go, but then I would have to charge it when I arrived.
So you would not be able to get back,
basically. But again,
which is a big part of driving.
It is, yeah. But for the use case at the time, we were living in Nashville, and I was commuting to Hermitage at our little Kinetica office.
Yeah,
as you know.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was about 30 miles. So I would get there and I'd have 10 miles left.
Yeah.
And I would just bring my cable and I would just plug it in. And by the time we were done with our 6 to 8 hour workday, it was full again. And then I would drive home.
Yeah.
And then I would plug it in when I got home and repeat the process. So it was fine, but there was no room for error.
Yeah.
Really.
You couldn't forget. Wake up in the morning, it's oh no.
But with that being said, it was a cool experience to not have to pay for gas, to never take that. I never took that car in for anything. I don't think I even changed the tires on it.
Wow.
I think it was the same tires that I bought. Obviously no brake pads because the regenerative braking. So anyways, the last 2 days I've been using a new Nissan Leaf, and it's getting 187 mile range, which for me, coming from 37 miles is a huge difference. That's actually nothing compared to Teslas, which are doing, I think, 280. But the thing that I like about the Nissan Leaf, and maybe some of you guys will criticize me in the comments, feel free to do so.
I might criticize you right here.
The thing I like about it is that it is like a boring, like under the radar car. It's cheap, in terms of electric cars. I think you can get away with a new one with the incentives here in America, paying around 20,000, 23-ish for like a brand new electric car that can do essentially 200 miles on a charge. No bells and whistles, really. There's no like auto driving. It's got, Apple CarPlay. I'm used to like old cars. I only buy cars that are like, $10,000 or below.
Yeah.
I've always paid cash for the most part with, small loans if I need to, but I'm really liking it, and the kids love it. The regenerative braking now on it is really cool. It wasn't like this on the original Leaf where it's just one pedal driving. So as I'm coming to a red light, I'll just take my foot off the gas, and it's really applying the regenerative braking, and I can see it charging itself. So I'll actually see the mileage go up as I'm like coming to a stop, which is nuts.
Yeah. I remember driving, we would drive up to Big Bear, Armando and I, in his Model Y.
Yeah.
And on the way back, because it's just all downhill from a mountain, he would just,
charge it up,
charge all the way back up on the way down the mountain. So
yeah.
He would be, I think he was still net negative, but it was, he gained a lot of it back
yeah.
by the time we made it back to his house.
I think the benefits for electric, there's a lot. There's the fact that you don't have to pay for gas. There's the fact that the cars are just so much more simple. It's just a giant battery and motors, and that's it. You don't have these belts and all these gears and all these things that can go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the motors can go bad, the batteries can go bad, but based off of the track record of the original Tesla and even the Nissan Leaf, which is, I think, the first car to market in America that was fully electric, they just don't break as often as traditional combustion engine machines.
I think the difference is take this for what you will, but this is my opinion. The combustion engine has more issues, but it can last a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Whereas the electric cars almost seem to expire because
the battery pack,
the battery pack, which is the majority of the car, I think they say like 7-ish years or maybe a little longer, depending on how much you drive it. It essentially just goes bad, and then to replace that, because it is so much of the car, it's so expensive. A lot of people end up not doing it. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a couple of tubes or whatever in a gas powered car. So it's interesting. I still like the idea of electric, but it is. I wonder in the long run, like we need to figure out a way to make batteries that are repairable almost. That would be a really great thing.
Or user replaceable. Would be nice. I because I kind of like, I'm just a tech nerd, and like, because I've been playing with this car for the last 2 days, I started like watching some reviews and comparing it to Teslas and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Model 3 would be kind of sort of what you would compare it to, but it's still more expensive.
Yeah.
But the cars are rated at like 300,000 miles on the battery before you need to kill it. And then even then, the car itself, the frame of what it is, like you're looking at maybe an $8,000 replacement. But at that point, if you've driven 300,000 miles on it, that's probably that's got to be at least 5 to 10 years of life.
I guess
then an $8,000 replacement then gives you, quote, a new car.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, so if you plan for that eventual thing, then you can consider it $8,000 for a new Tesla.
Plus the fact that there's no alternators that go out or like timing belts, and
just be motor and tires.
Yeah, it's just motor, tires, brake pads occasionally, but very infrequently, because you're rarely using the brake pads. You're using the regenerative brakes to brake it most of the time. So I don't even know how often you change the brakes on them. Probably very infrequently.
I guess the other issue that you could run into, which we haven't seen yet, but I imagine it's coming, is like not being able to support software updates.
Yeah, sure.
You know, that's probably going to be a thing. Like, for instance, like, I don't know, an iPhone 6, you can't, download the latest, or I think even up to like an iPhone 8 now.
That's also a point for the Leaf, in my opinion, is it has all the normal buttons. Like, it's got the AC button. It's a real physical button, you know. It's got a radio that with a knob and dials.
I kind of like that. That's nice.
It's just like, it looks boring and it's nothing sexy at all. And it looks like a standard, just plain old run-of-the-mill cheap car, which in my opinion is kind of a plus. It's like, flies under the radar. I don't look like a flashy Tesla driver. Which are very expensive. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of half joking. If I could afford a Tesla and I was confident enough to get one, I would. But I have a hard time spending that kind of money on anything. Even if I had the money, I feel like it would even be hard for me to justify it. But I mean, here I am with, you know, the top of the line iPhone, right? Like, I'm flashing around an iPhone Pro.
A little different.
Top of the line MacBook Pro.
That's still
it's my job.
A little different.
It's my truck. This is my truck. This is my car. I don't know. That's just the way I think. So, but yeah, whereas a Tesla is just a screen. So like, if their software goes out, you know, and the screen breaks, you can't adjust the air conditioning, you know, or whatever. Like,
you can't do a lot of things.
Yeah. And then also other car manufacturers like Nissan, like, they just have a track record of building cars in general. So I've just seen a lot of tweets and people talking about their Teslas with like the paneling coming off and certain like just build issues because it's
sounding like Jim Cook right
very
now.
Scrappy, but they are sexy to look. I think they're very beautiful cars. I think all of the Teslas look definitely better than Nissan Leaf.
Yeah. I think what's going to be interesting is, you know, we're getting it. More normal companies or traditional companies are making electric cars. So like BMW, you know, and they understand quality.
Nissan, Hyundai now, Toyota. Although I did see a news article that the CEO of Toyota just stepped down and was quoted at saying, "To hell with electric vehicles."
Well, he stepped down, so his opinion doesn't matter. But that's funny.
Maybe he was holding off on that. I would assume that the Prius is a big seller for them, so maybe he likes the idea of hybrids instead of electric. But with my experience using a hybrid for the last couple of years, I have a Prius which is now broken that I was just talking about. Because you're blending old with the new, there's just even more complexity to it. It's more expensive to fix. It's more complex. I am almost of the mindset now that it's like, just go full gas or full electric. The hybrid is just, there are benefits with the great gas mileage and the ease of use that you don't have to plug it in or have any type of range fear because you can always go to a gas station. But those cars are even more complicated and there's just more to break. So
more to break and more expensive pieces.
All that to say, will I be buying a Nissan Leaf? Probably not. But
this became a car podcast here at the end.
Yeah, it did. Well, I guess that's kind of it for today. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Not at the moment. I think we covered all of it. Honestly, I think that the podcast went better than I thought because we kind of started this going, what are we talking about today? Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, like breaking the illusion of the podcast here, a lot of times we show up and we're like, what happened this week? Did anything happen this week? I don't know. We got to come up with an hour worth of conversation that's compelling and interesting to listen to. And hopefully we achieved that this week. So let us know if we failed down in the comments, if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, so we'll end this show with some call to action here. If you are a fan of the show and specifically listen on Apple Podcasts, would you do us a solid and go to Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review? That would be, you know, whatever star rating you want to give us. We would love a 5-star, but if you want to give us 4, have at it.
A perfect score would be good. I'd like it to be perfect.
But you know, just give a comment or something that you find value in this show, something that you enjoy about it, and even if you have any suggestions on things that you would love to see us do, feel free to put that there or contact us at ghp.fm. And that applies to people who would be interested in sponsoring the show. We post every single week and we try to remain as consistent as we can. We did have a personal reason why we didn't post last week. So here we are this week.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but it's all good. The workflow is hopefully every Friday is what we're shooting for these days. As we record.
Loosely.
Yeah, every Friday.
Yeah.
Every Friday morning is the goal. Make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ghpod. And if you didn't know already, we have show notes. So all the things that we talked about, the articles that we read will be available in the podcast show notes. Whatever podcast player you're using, do a Google search and say podcast player show notes, where to find it. You can find it if you don't know already. And I try to include chapters. I love chapters in podcasts. So not only on the YouTube chapters, but in the podcast player, we have chapter support with Spotify because they don't have traditional chapters. It's in the description. So if you go into the description, you'll see the time code and you could skip around. So yeah, that's about it for today.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good episode. So once again, I'm Connor McCaskill.
And I'm David Altizer, and this is Joe Rogan.
Welcome to the Golden Hour podcast experience with your host,
And we'll
David
see you next week.
See you guys.
Welcome to the Golden Hour podcast experience with your hosts, David Altizer and Connor McCaskill. Let's go, you mother truckers.